Fear of failure exists here and day traders over there. And when you mix those two things together, you have the recipe for pretty much every single day trader out there. My name's Cotton Candy TA, and today I'm going to be showing you how to overcome fear of failure as a day trader. Now, we do this from a two-angle standpoint. The first angle is that we want to understand the mind and the mental analysis side of it, so everything that happens inside of our brain. The second angle that we approach this on is by actually creating training routines that you can adopt. So you have something to put into practice to say, hey, I understand fear of failure, and this is how I overcome it. So kind of creating the perfect system where you understand the mental side of things with also the action plan that you can put in place to overcome your fear of failure and better make you understand it. Now, whether you're a brand new trader or somebody who's scaling up for the first time, or maybe you're even a multimillionaire and you've been doing this for 20 years, fear of failure is something that creeps on every single one of us day traders. No matter what, you could be 10 years in, it hits you. You could be 2 days in and it hits you all the same. It will come across your path as a day trader at one point or another. So I'm going to share with you a mental analysis session that I did on fear of failure and how I showed a very high level student a technique and a way in which we created an action plan to overcome this fear of failure. So watch this to the end. There's multiple parts with different areas where we focus on the mind and the action plan and all sorts of stuff. So watch it till the end if you're having trouble with fear of failure and this is something you want to overcome, or if you're just a day trader in general, because at one point in your career, you're going to come across this. So good luck. What does vision mean to you as a trader? Like, what if I say vision, what do you think of when I say vision? Like, what's your vision with trading? Or maybe not what's your vision with trading, but when I say vision, you think of cars and houses? Like, what comes to mind when I say that?
Um, I suppose future obviously, but enjoying maybe a little bit of freedom comes with, my time, choosing my work schedule and all that. Uh, being able to be available more for family and friends and whatnot, and
Okay.
more comfortable with money, I suppose. Um, I've just been kind of chilling on savings for a little while, but
Okay. So I think this is where one of your problems lies. So I'd like to talk to you today about some mental analysis stuff instead of technical, because I think the coaches can help you with your technicals lots, and there's lots of room for growth there. But I think one of the major things that I see with traders is this block, and I don't get to talk to people too often about it because it's more reserved for kind of private settings like this. So I'd like to talk to you today about vision and creativity and what that really means, and fear of failure, because fear of failure is actually some. I would say it's the number one thing that plagues traders. Like if you were to say, Cotton, what is the one failing point? If you want to become a trader, what is the one thing you see the most that holds people back? And I would say fear of failure. And beyond that, I would say the valley of disappointment when it comes to learning technical analysis. But at first, I would say like fear of failure 101 is exactly what most traders get into, because they get into these queues where they all of a sudden are taking trades they shouldn't, and they don't trust themselves and their technicals, and it just becomes this snowball effect that kind of hammers you on all fronts, right? So it makes you get into bad trades, it makes you exit the good ones too early, it makes you not understand it, it affects your practice routines. Like the amount of things that fear of failure affects in trading is huge. So when I said to you vision, what do you think of vision? Most people have the same kind of answer. They think, oh, well, I think of houses and cars, and one day I want to own, this Porsche or this Ferrari or whatever, or have this lifestyle. Like they associate vision with, quality of life. But that's actually the wrong way to think of vision. Vision for us as day traders is understanding that there is creative outcomes in day trading. So vision means that if you have the vision to see all the creative outcomes, technically there should be no fear of failure, because if you understand all the outcomes and what they actually mean, then if you have the vision to see that, what would you be afraid of if you knew all the outcomes, right? Almost like a maze that you've already done. Well, if you've never done this maze and you're scared of mazes, you would say, "Oh, I'm not going in this maze. I don't really understand how to get out." And but if you've done this maze 1,000 times and you know like the back of your hand, you'd be like, oh yeah, no problem, easy, right? You'd go from front to back like no problem. You'd get in, you'd get out, you'd be setting world records, you'd be like maze runner number one, and whatever. So vision is actually what we talk about when we say vision, is the ability to create all the different outcomes in day trading, so that fear of failure is no longer there, because a fear of failure is a lack of vision. If you don't understand what the outcomes can be, Well, you're afraid of what could possibly happen, right? It's almost like anxiety in a way. Anxiety is, well, you can't control or you don't understand the outcomes, and it makes you anxious, and all of a sudden you have anxiety, and you're self-diagnosing yourself with depression and all sorts of different things, right? So if you're sitting there and you're like, oh, I don't want to go to this party, I don't know who's going to be there, I'm anxious, right? Like, you don't say I'm anxious, but that's the feeling that you associate with it. Oh, I don't want to do this event because I don't know the outcome, right? But if someone told you, oh, well, Jim and Bob and Carol are going to be at the party, you'd be like, oh, I like Jim, Bob, and Carol, cool. Yeah, I'll go to that party, that sounds hype. No, but if it was like, wow, there's gonna be like 80 people and nobody knows, and then you might be like, oh, I don't know, kind of sounds a little iffy, right? So, vision anxiety, all these things, it's about understanding outcomes. So when we think of day trading and vision and fear of failure and these things that kind of plague us and roadblock us, understanding creative outcomes are, or having the ability to create all the different outcomes. So creativity conquers vision. And in our field, anyways, maybe not in the party scenarios, not creativity, but the understanding of the outcomes squashes that fear of failure. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to share my screen with you, and I'm going to show you an example of what I mean. So we have a chart, right? And we're going to talk about more than just vision today. I'm going to give you kind of a training routine to go along with this as well to help you best accelerate the fastest you can. But first, I want to tackle this because I need you to understand what that fear of failure is and what it looks like. So you have a chart, right? And your technical analysis should be pretty straightforward. And I'm not going to go through the whole gamut of TA for this example. I'm just going to maybe mark out some quick levels. It's not really relevant how accurate this is. I'll try to be as accurate as I can, but again, it's not really relevant. So you have like a 4-hour break level here. I don't think there would be a daily. No, there's no daily. So you have a 4-hour break, and then we go to an hourly level. So you have an hourly hold level, right? Let's color code these things here, just so we understand them properly. And you have an hourly level, and then I'm sure by the looks of it, you have a range trend rate here, and on the top side, you have this trend you've been fighting, and that's fine. And then let's go down one more time frame. I don't think I want to go anything past this. And looks like you might have the test of a break level here. So this is probably going to be a target for the future. Let's just mark this one here, 15-minute level. And oh, actually, that's perfect. Okay, good. So this is kind of like your kind of very basic setup. You're doing your technical analysis. You've marked out a 15-minute level. Like if you were to rewind in time a little bit here and say, like, okay, here's a break level. It'll hit again in the future, making it an origin level because that'll protect against this, which will give you some type of range trend from here to there, right? Like that'll give you some type of range trend if that hits again. So then we can just, very, very common understanding of this, right? Like very basic technical analysis. So a nice little opening spot here to take this 23 to, what is that? 23 to 42.5. Yep, that's good. And we can just hit play here until this happens. And so you're sitting here, you're trading away. You haven't taken any positions yet. I don't know, maybe you took this as the spot, and that's fine too. You've got a hold level here. It can reverse the move. It can continue to hold, and then it'll attack the origin on the top side, and et cetera, because then you'd have this origin here. So you're going to mirror the side of the chart, right? You have this origin. It has tested again. So you're going to go and test that origin on the top. Very, classic standard mirroring. So in this scenario, you're going to sit here and say, okay, let's maybe hide some of these for now. Let's hide that one. Let's hide that one. Let's hide this. What one was that? No, we need that one. Not sure what these ones are. That should be this one right here. So let's just hide these for now. And let's say you're trading away and you go here and you're waiting for your position to get hit, and you're like, oh, okay, perfect. Your position is hit. Awesome. Now you get into the queue of fear of failure, because actually this was hit like almost right to the T. You're within $1. So that's pretty crazy accurate. You'd put your buy anyways at 38 or 39. So you'd put your buy there and you'd get filled perfectly. Now something happens in charts. So you get a fear of failure in charts when to enter positions, not only when to enter positions, but also what to do with them when you can't create all the different outcomes in your mind. And what I mean by that is, take this away. All of a sudden, you don't understand that you're supposed to be hitting an origin level because you have nothing to base that claim off of. So what would be the difference between hitting this level here, which would be just the greediest hold level? You can get into the whole queue of technical analysis. Let's deep dive this weekly trend and let's go up to this hold level. And what would be the difference? Like, why this level, right? why should you take this level? So you start to develop this like, oh, what if, right? Like, what if we go here? And then typically I see people, they'll just go after the greediest position. They'll just say, well, there's nothing greedier than this above in the charts. Maybe there's like a little 1 minute level here. So maybe they even say like, oh, there's a little 1 minute level here. Let's take that trade. And let's take this trade as well. But really those wouldn't make sense because you didn't have the creativity to create those outcomes. So now you start getting into this queue and this routine of missing trades, which also makes you doubt yourself, right? So then you're getting into just this big ball of stuff that just isn't positive for the mind or for trading, anything like that. And this is what I see all the time. People, they lack the creativity to create all the outcomes. So they very much shortcut themselves. And then you get into another scenario here where you get traders who say, I just want to make 1.2%. Oh, that's fine. I just want to make 1.2% on every trade, or even 1%. Let's just be easy math and go 1% here. They say, if every two trades I lose, I can make one trade. So on every three trades, I'm break even because I lose 50, I gain 100, right? Percent. So if you're using 100x leverage, or so at this point, you would have just exited the trade here, target hit at 1%, and you're like, oh, cool. C'est la vie, on to the next one. You're shortcutting yourself in a big way. So if we actually take all of these levels here and put them back and then re-add our origin level here on the 15-minute, you're almost taking this trade and you're saying like, what's the point of even marking technical analysis on the bottom side of your chart? You might as well just delete those, because if you're just taking 1% every single time, like you might as well just delete them. So you are adopting and saying, yes, I am not being creative. I am not getting over this thing where you aren't marking levels and you have no creativity to do it. But if you think about this for a second, by having these levels, we already knew that if you were to buy this level, you exit here and enter a new trade. So if you were to long this, you can exit your long and hedge into a short on that level, because you creatively have created the charts and everything that you have on the chart. You're saying, here's an origin level. If we hit this, it's going to mirror on the top side. So the possibilities are now that if you hit this and this completes, that you should take a short there. So you should actually exit your profits there and then maybe take a short like a little bit underneath it, because you're saying that throughout the creative outcomes of me understanding everything on this chart, I'm now able to kind of get rid of that fear of failure. Because if you understand all the outcomes, it's very straightforward. You know exactly what to expect and exactly what to do. Just like in this trade, if we have an origin level here and this side of the origin level breaks, I know we're going to try to go down to this hourly hold level. And if this hourly hold level now ladders the move, let's put this trend here to here. If this hourly hold level ladders a move, it means we have a 4-hour origin down here. I think we need to start looking for a 4-hour origin up top to hit up here. But if we ladder it, I think we need to go against this trend. So say you were in this trade and you took your short rate here, and this little range right here can't hold. So now you can start adding your other things here. Like maybe let's go to the hourly time frame and say, okay, so we've got interior range trend there. So you've got range trend to range trend now, and you can delete these kind of pencil strokes we have. Oopsies, not that one. You can delete these kind of pencil strokes that we have on the chart here. And all of a sudden you have some pretty clear outcomes of what you're expecting to happen. Now you're going between two ranges. So if this range breaks on the bottom, you know you're going to lose this origin. If this range breaks on the top, you know you're going to lose this origin. So now we have controllers on the chart. So all of a sudden, if you're starting to hard close out here and it doesn't quite hard close and you're here and you go like this, but then you start closing here, you know to take a short here. There should be no fear of getting into a short here, because you know you're about to lose this and go down to a minimum of the hourly. If you go to the hourly, then you're going to be creating your next range trend like so, right? And then so you have you now have range trends and the base of your range that's developed. So if this holds, there should be no worry about getting back into a position, because you know it's going to go to here, right? Like you know it's going to go to your range trend on top. So by starting to prescribe these outcomes and starting to look at a chart and take every single level, you're going to understand the outcome of every single trade. So that's going to kind of crush that fear of failure and diminish those thoughts of, I don't know where my targets are, I can't trust my TA. And then all the same on the bottom, if you come down to this 4-hour origin level, all of a sudden I would be saying, okay, well, if we're going to break the range, where's the mirror on the top? Well, here's the mirror on the top. Here's the 4-hour origin up here. So if I come down to that level, I know we're going to break this 4-hour origin. So or we're going to go back up to this and attack it. And you can see that even if you deep dove this origin, so if you kind of did something like this where you came down to here, Well, you're probably going to go a little past that and go to this here. So to take your trade on the 15-minute level instead of this 4 hour, because it's what it did on the bottom, right? And by doing this, you're starting to describe all the different outcomes. So whenever a target gets hit, you're able to say, I know why that target got hit. It's because this happened, and that means this is going to happen next. So this is what we mean when we say creativity and vision in day trading. Like, do you have the vision and the creativity to see all these different outcomes, right? Because if you can't see these outcomes, again, I go back to that party scenario, and it's like, well, I don't know what's going to happen. So of course I'm scared to take a trade. But if you can start compounding and making sense of all the different technical analysis, all of a sudden, like, this level is Bob, this level is Jim or John or whoever we said, and this is Carol. Like, oh, I know the three people who are going. Oh yeah, that's cool. I know exactly what's going to happen. We're going to play Scrabble. That's a pretty lame party, but maybe, I don't know. Maybe you go to Scrabble parties. I don't. But anyways, maybe it's Twist or something real wild. No, I'm kidding. But you know what I mean? Like, you're able to see what those outcomes are going to produce for you. And then you get into another cue where you're just saying, oh, going back to that other example, like, I got this trade here. I just want to take 1%. This is another big failing point that I see with people, because they say, I want to just take 1%. And if you're going to do that, you might as well do this and just delete everything, because it's not going to matter. You're going to get into the right position, and you're simply going to say, like, I want to make 1%, rinse, repeat. So in this scenario, you've reduced 80% of the work. So it's like an extreme shortcut, right? So you're entering trades, you're just saying, I want to take 1%. This is an extreme shortcut because it never allows you the ability to see all the different levels and to now process and say, hey, here's the logic flow of a chart. This is what it means when I hit a 15-minute level. If I had to mark out this chart, I would say, okay, so we hit a 15, we laddered off of this side, so we're probably going to ladder here next. So if I was to take a short, and I would say this based on the fact that we didn't hit our origin level, and this looks like it may hold, because if we're laddering this side, we want to ladder this side. So then you'd kind of just be Pandora's boxing between those two. So that's kind of the next spot I would take, because for me, that makes logical sense. And if we hit this origin on the bottom, I might look instead for a backside. I'd like to see what happens a little bit in the trade first, but as a first call of action, I would say, if we're not hitting this, we need to try to ladder that, because we're laddering the bottom, so we need to ladder the top side, right? And then, yeah, okay, so you get a pretty good trade. At this point, I would say, okay, so I understand that we have an origin here. It's been hit. We're laddering. We're trying to break this range on the bottom. So we need to start hard closing under this range trend. That would be important to me next. So now I have the vision. I've taken this short, and I know we need to break this. So if we're not going to break this, then I know that I should probably get out of my short position, because if we're not going to break this trend, which is what this level is designed to do, because it is laddering the origin, if we are not gonna break this, I need to get out of my trade, right? And then I need to start thinking about what my bigger targets are. So then I might go to like an hourly here and see, okay, is there an hourly there? Well, there's no hourly targets here, so that's fine. I don't really need to worry about that. Let's just see what happens in the next few candles here. Okay, is it gonna actually break trend? Hits origin again. Oh, it still hasn't broken trend. So this is where I'd start to worry, and I'd say, hey, it's not hard closing trend, and it's holding this origin. So I think next I would like to say, okay, well, this ladder is complete. Let's go after this one. But if it hits this level, I'm pretty sure this origin is going to be in succession, and this is going to be in failure. So this is kind of like our target here. Like, we want to hit this break level because we're breaking the ladder of this, which is the logic flow from here. And let's actually rewind that, put that back. This break level here is saying I've laddered this piece right here, right? Let's put that back to a solid line. It's saying I've laddered this piece here. I need to ladder this next, but if I hit this break level, I'm likely going to be trying to break the trend at that. And if it's going to get out to a point that's so far, like if it gets out here, by the time we hit this origin here, we're already going to be pulling back and hard closing over trend. So it's almost like the origin is automatically lost, because unless there's such a rampant pullback that you go up and spike below this trend again. Like, it happened right here, actually. You see what I mean? Like, it happened right here, and now it's going back up to attack its target, right? Like, it tried to break trend. It couldn't. It had a rampant rip and went right to trend. So like, it's basically the exact same thing on the bottom, but we have that creative vision to see all the different outcomes of the chart. Now, there should be no real fear left, right? Like, what happens next on this? If you hit this backside and hold this backside, by the way, I think you would just dump straight down because now you're creating like a backside trail, or this as a reverse. So if this reverse backside hits, this will be reverse backside in the future, and that'll dump the trade as well. So what happens next? Oh, see, we're right there. So now we're in a reverse queue. So we can actually delete this. And if this continues to hold, you can see how it's trying to break this origin. So if this trend does close, like this is a pretty decent entry right here as a trade. This is a decent entry. And then if this does keep moving down, like you would never say like let me take 1%. Like 1% would be right here. That would be foolish because your first target should be 1.71, so or 1.73. Should be 170%, right? Because now there's no fear to get into this trade, and we should have a complete controller, like a complete we should have complete grasp on this trade and everything that can happen. And that's where your targets, and you're not trusting your targets, is going to be fear of failure. And fear of failure is created from a lack of vision. Again, if we just we might as well just delete everything off our chart outside of this, even this stuff down here. If we just want to take 1%, which is a criminal sin, by the way. Like, it's not bad to have profit targets in trading, but that's not the way I would do it if I was building myself up as a trader. And we'll talk about that in a few moments here. But just as like a general start to, like, you're missing targets, you're thinking fear of failure, you're not, confidence in yourself, energy is low. This is why, because you need to be able to have all the creative outcomes mentally. You need to be able to make this canvas your canvas. And then you need to understand the logic flow of why the technicals are explaining to you what they're explaining. So you're running into, are your technicals correct? Yes or no? If yes, then that's where you're seeing that fear of failure, because you're not understanding maybe the logic flow. So there's a couple different ways to look at that, right? Technicals correct? Yes. Am I marking the right levels? Yes. So your technical analysis is good. What about my targets, like my comparative analysis? That's where you're starting to get to the mind work, was comparative analysis, comparing these events against each other. So almost mixing TA and MA in a way as a hybrid and calling it comparative analysis, right? Does that kind of make sense?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Any questions so far?
Um, I don't know. I mean, I definitely agree with you. I think I'm not quite seeing all of the potential outcomes, and that would definitely help me, right, with some clarity on the targets.
No.
I don't think I have any specific questions on that. I mean, maybe for later I would have some about some technicals, but
Okay, so let's talk about a training routine, like how you could actually put this into action, and what that looks like. Like where does that make sense to, where do you go from here with that? Like, that's great information, but where do you go from here? So I like to think of this analogy as almost like being an NBA player. An NBA player, and there's a couple different directions I'm going to go here. So kind of hang with me. So I like to think of this as like being an NBA player. An NBA player is at the beginning of their career is someone who's playing college ball and is potentially going to get drafted into the NBA. And how would you get drafted into the NBA? Well, you would have to be, of a high level of talent. So you'd have to be extremely talented as a basketball player, but then also you'd have to have all your other metrics. Like, you'd have to have teamwork, you'd have to have, the ability to pass, strength, training. There's all these other metrics, good mental fortitude, strategy, intelligence, what to do next. Like, there's all these other pieces that make an NBA player so great. And I think what happens with traders is they don't take training seriously enough. And this is where, in my head, I see a movie, right? There's like this NBA movie, and you've got the most talented player. He's the next Kobe Bryant or LeBron James or Michael Jordan or whatever. He's the most talented player the world's ever seen. But this guy, he's really egotistical. He's really a know-it-all. He knows how good he is, and like, no coaches want to work with him, so he can't get on a team because he might be the most technically gifted person in the world. But it's like, no coaches want to work with him. They're like, your ego's too big. You don't pass. You're an all-star. You're going to be toxic for the team. You may be good as one unit, but the other four people on the court are going to suffer just from your presence. So a very toxic player. So then he just never gets drafted, even though he's the best. And until he humbles himself and says, yes, coach, I'm willing to do it your way. Let's learn together. Till he humbles himself. That's the moment where he can actually evolve his life and his career and things like that. And he can actually get drafted into the NBA. And I look at trading a lot the same. I look at trading as too often people just start trading and they don't focus on the training enough. They just think they're big and mighty and that they can just conquer it all and that there's not really anything that can stand in their way. So they just put money in the markets and they take trades and they take trades and they take trades. But then I think, well, what would happen if you looked at every chart every single time the way we looked at it today with all of these different outcomes? And so, fine, you can do that. But then again, take it up one more step. What if you were to only do it with $1? Wouldn't this equate to the same thing as just your everyday training? Like you don't play in the NBA and go and play 365, right? 365 days a year. No, the biggest part of your job, 80% of your job is just raw training. You're just on the court, 5 a.m. every morning. Like we've all seen the videos, the inspirational videos, it shows the superstars playing at 5 a.m. on the courts, and they're doing 1,000 free throws every morning, and they're doing they're doing layups and doing dribbles and passing, and this is the training they do every single day to make them able to compete at the highest level. So when you're thinking about yourself competing against other day traders, what would be so wrong with doing 1,000 $1 trades, right? Like if take profits out of the equation, take the potential to make money out of the equation. Let's just create a perfect training routine. Because in 6 months, if you were getting ready to go into the NBA, would you just sit and wait to go into the NBA, or would you just play games against your buddies like on in street ball, or would you go at 5 a.m. every day, nothing to risk because you're by yourself, you're just shooting free throw after free throw, strength training, conditioning, strategizing, watching different players play? Like I very much associate this as the same as what if you were to take 6 months of your time and trade with $1 every single day? And you've seen the same origin level that we have marked on our chart. You've seen the same origin level 500-600 times. And you've taken that trade and you know, hey, this origin level is going to hit. It's going to go to that origin level. If it doesn't, it's going to hit this ladder point. If it doesn't hit that ladder point, then it's going to create this trend. If it creates that trend, then the origin is going to break on the bottom. If it goes on top. And you've gone and you've taken, the same scenario 400 or 500 times with $1. And like the result is inadequate. It doesn't matter. The result of what you make monetarily in that training time, it doesn't matter. So if you were to snapshot your life in 6 months in the future and you continue trading the way you are now for the next 6 months, what does that trading life look like? Are you the same person? Are you a little bit better? Are you kind of getting it piece by piece, right? Like you'd be evolving at a slow rate, but you're not taking as many trades because you're using big amounts of money. So you're sitting there kind of turtled in and you're like, okay, let's take the best quality positions, premium level positions, the best things we can take. And you're taking a few trades a day. How good are you going to be in 6 months, right? And now if you take the other scenario where you take $1, and let me tell you, if I was training someone for a tournament, like we got chart raters and all that stuff, and I was training somebody to be the absolute crusher because I had to win this tournament because there was a lot on the line, I would give them $50 a day and I would say, you have to take 200 trades. I don't care what they are. I just want you to have exposure to trades and you can't lose that $50. So they're $1 trades each. Not much is on the line. Nobody really cares about the money. $50 is not a big deal. When some days we can make $80,000 as traders. So $50 not a big deal. But then imagine doing 200 trades a day versus 3 or 4 high quality positions. In 6 months, if you're doing 200 trades a day, which is if you're working 5 days a week, roughly 1,000 a week, 4 weeks in a month, if you have 28 months, so we'll just round numbers here, nice easy 4,000 trades, 4,000 trades a month. 6 times 4 is 24,000 trades versus taking 2 or 3 a day. So 2 or 3 a day would be what, 3? So that's 15 trades a week. That's 60 a month, 60 times 6. So 360 trades versus 24,000. Like which version is going to be ready for your NBA, right? Like, or to be a trader trading against other people. So that's like another thing, because now you can create a training routine where you have to look at life as a snapshot like that. You have to look at it and say, where can I be in 6 months, right? Same as if you were working at a Best Buy and you were making okay money, it's paying the bills, and you're like, where am I going to be if I stay at Best Buy for the next 10 years? Well, I might, be as a manager, and then I'll climb the ladder, do the proverbial thing and go to, department manager and then store manager. Okay, I'll manage my own store. So in 10 years, if I keep grinding at this thing, I'll manage my own store. Now say, well, if I go to med school right now, it might take me 10 years to get out of med school. What's my life going to be in 10 years? You're just starting this journey where you're going to be traveling the world, or you're going to be doing medical breakthroughs, or you're going to be a doctor, you're going to be working in hospitals, people, big money, exciting, fast-paced life, right? So then you have to look at your life in snapshots. Like, what could it be if you do it this way versus that way? And I don't think anybody's going to disagree. Maybe doctor's not the right thing for you. Doctors actually have, quality of life is not always so great because they work tons of hours, but they get to help people, so that's cool too. So different trade-off there, right? But then a snapshot of 10 years, it's like, well, why am I not just trying to become a doctor? Because it's hard. It's tough. It's tough to go to medical school. And like, damn, it's tough to take $1 trades for months on end. But imagine if you got 24,000 trades versus 360 trades. How much better of a trader would you be? Because if I was turning, and you don't have to do 6 months, you could do this for 3 weeks, for example. But 3 weeks, you're going to be at 3,000 trades, because I think we did 1,000 trades per week versus 45 trades. 1,000 versus 45 is like, you can't even measure the comparison. Like 45 just feels like a warm up. It feels like you're just drinking your coffee for the day, and then you just went to sleep at 10 a.m. for the next 24 hours. You know what I mean? So I think creating like a training routine where you're kind of on two fronts, tackling two things: fear of failure combined with the creativity to see outcomes, and then also taking just just volley it, this huge amount of trades, just this raw bulk of trades. Like, there's not going to be much that surprises you in trading after that, right? Like, you're creating even over 3 weeks. Like, imagine it like this: you've created 45 outcomes. So you did what I just did on my chart. You did that 45 times in your version. On my version, you did it 3,000 times, right? If it was 3 weeks. So imagine doing this 3,000 times. Your brain is going to be mush. But you're going to wake up the next day and you're going to be like, holy shit, I know everything that's happening. I can't really make mistakes anymore. Like, there's nothing surprises me. So that not only conquers fear of failure, but it accelerates you as a trader tenfold. Like, your progress will skyrocket. You'll slingshot your progress to the ceiling, right? It's all the same as if you were trying to go into the NBA. God, you need to be on that court 10, 12, 14 hours a day. And when you're not on the court, you need to be living and breathing strategies, watching videos, seeing how other teams do it. Why did this guy pivot this way when he got rushed by the defense? Oh, that's smart, because he opened up his left side to pass a blind pass over to the other side of the court, and I'm being pressured on this side of the court. So then there's a strategy component. Like, they're living, eating, and breathing strategy, right? And it's the same thing with trading. So I think by removing that monetary value and that's such a high tension point and such a hyper focus on how much money can I make, how fast can I do it, I think if you step back a bit, and your technicals will refine too, by the way. This is like a really good strategy and a really good plan for you to kind of conquer not only fear of failure, because like, I can feel the low energy and I can feel like your targets, you're doubting them, you're feeling low energy, you're not really sure, you're in this path and you're on this journey, but you're just kind of at this, like, I don't want to say you're defeated, but you're just at this point where it's like, oh, okay, what do I do next? All right, I've done this. What's next? Right? Like, it's just, you're kind of at that mute point in a way where you're a little frustrated, but not too frustrated, not ready to give up by any stretch, but just like, okay, I wish progress was faster, right?
Yeah, I mean, I think not a bad way to put it.
Yep. I immediately got that impression after just the tone in your voice and hearing how you said it. That's the impression I got, like, almost instantly. But this is like a hardcore training routine. I very rarely talk with people about MA because most people are so focused on, let's what can you teach me? Well, I can teach you lots. I can teach you until the moon comes up. We can be here all day, and I can teach you different things. I can teach you about combo ranges, which I've never taught anybody. I can teach all sorts of stuff, but that's not, I don't know if that's really the beneficial path. Like, I think mastering this side of MA gives you an income fast. I think it says, like, hey, I can create an income for myself in 1 month. If I do this in 1 month or in 2 months, like, I can now start to generate an income that I can rely on. And then you can strategize your next piece, right? So I think that's the benefit of doing something like this, because I don't talk a lot about MA. I do in my courses, but just not in a one-on-one setting. But then when I see the need for it, or when I can feel that there's like a clear, like, hey, this is clearly going to help somebody in a big way, like, that's where their struggle is, then yeah, I think that's a really good call for it.
Yeah, yeah.